We're just about to approach 11 a.m. So good morning to everybody. Or good evening, depending on where you're dialing in. I see we have over 100 participants already, and that number's going up nicely. So without further ado, Casey, I'll hand over to you to get us started. Or just while we wait for Casey to come on, I thought I'd just get us started. Obviously, the discussion that we want to have with you today is around work arrangement strategies, and we've coined the phrase Triple H, which is HQ, hub and spoke, and home. But a lot of people have sort of asked why we're doing this webinar, like why give away the recipe to the secret sauce, as it were. Well, we're the largest and most successful flexible office space company or co-working company here in the Philippines. And because of that, we are the thought leader in this space. And we've had clients, industry friends, even some competitors reach out to us and ask advice in terms of best practices and what we can all be doing better to support our clients. But one thing I just wanted to add really was, this has been very much a collaboration with our clients. We're very, very fortunate to work with some wonderful brands, some of which were a multinational, and they've told us about things that they're doing elsewhere, which we've been able to bring into the sort of Philippines environment within KMC, and so I personally, I think, and I know it's the same for a number of my employees, I've probably been on the phone myself with 200, 250 different clients to really initially really discuss how we could support them when the pandemic first happened here in the Philippines, because things happened very, very quickly. We were given, I believe, 3 to 5 days to really mobilize all of our clients and get them set up into a home-based solution, and because of that, that was the initial discussion. Like, how can we help you right away to keep the operations moving? But as conversations developed, it was really much more of a conversation of how KMC were going to be able to support them moving forward. And that's really what we're here to discuss today. So yeah, wow, 145 participants. Casey, I'll let you get started. Thank you very much again to everybody.
Hi, thank you, Tom, for taking that over. I think I got in a bit late from the start. So yeah, I want to greet everyone a great morning. Thank you for joining us in today's webinar, which we actually entitled HQ, Hub and Spoke, Home and Work Arrangement Strategy. So I'm Casey Gamboa, AVP from Enterprise Solutions from KMC. Joining me today, as you can see from your screens, would be Thomas Craig, our VP for Sales. And later on, we're also going to have time with our friends from one of our clients, actually, Asia Premier One Source. That'll be Mr. Jonathan Miller and Miss Lulette Melado. So before we formally start with the webinar, I believe Thomas already shared with you, some of our objectives and main reasons why we are having this kind of webinar. It is mainly focused on actually creating awareness of, the strategies that are workable for you guys. Because we from KMC, I myself and also Tom, I believe, has spoken to a lot of hundreds of clients and colleagues from the past since this pandemic has hit us, and a lot of these colleagues are really faced on a challenge of coming up with the solutions to address the limitation, of course, that comes with the quarantine here in the Philippines. So the setup here in the Philippines may be far from how other countries are actually approaching the pandemic. We've gone through many versions of the community quarantine, to be honest. And it seems like there's not much of a difference on the different versions that we have here. And so it's appearing that the transportation and it's the social distancing that are always the biggest challenge of all, correct, Tom? So feel free to, just chime in if you have additional information about, the reasons why we are doing this. It's because, a lot of them are really asking us to to really share our piece, as we are the ones leading in the country in terms of providing flexible solutions. That's why perhaps a lot of them are actually calling us to come up with strategies that we can suggest that are really going to be workable for their operations. So anything to add to that, Tom?
No, no, I think you've summed that up very nicely indeed. So feel free to keep going.
Okay, yeah. So without further ado, we'd like to bring you straight to the webinar's topic, which is HQ, hub and spoke, and then, of course, home work arrangement strategies. So for better recall, perhaps we can somewhat agree to call it in mind the Triple H strategies, because it basically start with H, all of them, right? So let's start with the fact that all things in the world now are really disrupted by this pandemic. And in our country in general is still under the restrictions of combined enhanced community quarantine, or the ECQ. And right now, Metro Manila is in general community quarantine. And honestly, there's not much of a difference in terms of the restrictions outside. It's just that now we are on GCQ. Most people that are allowed to go outside are those working class, because what the government says is that this has been opened only because we wanted to revive our economy. But nevertheless, transportation is still very much of a challenge for all of us, and especially to those employee passengers, given the fact that not all our employees are fortunate enough to have their own private vehicles, and that's the only thing allowed right now, and a few public transportation. So as you can see from our deck, schools are still closed, and that the government is pushing for what they call now the DLP, or the distance learning program, where the students will be attending classes virtually. So GCQ, or the General Community Quarantine, aims to loosen up a bit only on the limitation, focused on keeping the ball rolling for the economy, so that we can somewhat survive this pandemic economy wise. So many businesses are thriving and trying their best to operate despite many limitations. So while making sure, of course, that they are following the government mandated safety protocols. So we did some research, and as I've mentioned, we've been continuously talking to a lot of industry leaders as well, aside from our colleagues and clients. And we've heard how they're working through their operations these days. So some of them are saying that 100% they're working from home, and some are combining it of 50% going to the HQ, and team A and team B, and then a combination of both. So basically, they are our inspiration in putting together this Triple H campaign and the webinar today. So as I proceed with our slides today, so the next slide would show you the research on the studies with the studies showing the companies that are withstanding this crisis. Actually, these are the industries. So first is the telecommunication companies, so healthcare and medical support services as well, e-commerce and logistics. Perhaps we all know why, no? These are basically the support services that are keeping our basic essentials on the go and being delivered to our doorsteps, as other companies are actually sadly closing down or downsizing. The good number of BPO sector, or shared services companies, in the other hand, are increasing its manpower. No, so they're still actively recruiting, and they're appearing to be taking 41% of the recent job posts of what we have gathered from Job Street's report. And I believe about the same percentage has been reported lately by IBPAP, with about 47% of the job openings are belonging from the same industries that we have mentioned earlier. And so the statistics also on the ranking of job roles is showing that the same industry is really topping the list, and they're really hiring this season, and they have a good ongoing productivity rate of as much as 85%. That's really fantastic, right? And a huge chunk of them are actually working from home. So that's somewhere 60%. And 20 to 25% are working from their sites. And we kind of know why, because of the limitations. And later on, we're going to share with you more challenges and, the ups and downs on different work strategies that we're talking about in this webinar. So the next slide is going to show you it's showing now the top 5 location. So it's looking like home-based work has indeed gathered a good amount of job searches during this pandemic. And it's looking like that those who lost their jobs sadly, and those that are on a leave without pay statuses are searching for ways and means to really earn more, if not, get an income while they're locked in their homes. So as expected, Manila is topping the list, then Cebu, Cavite, Quezon City, and even as far as Pampanga is following and being the top 5 highest sources in the talent pool in the Philippines. So latest report, by the way, says that we have a total of 7.2 million unemployed professionals in the market. So just imagine how many people are being affected by the pandemic now. Hence, we're calling it a crisis. So this report simply gives us like an idea where the most of the talent pool are located. So some potential sites to look into as well. Later, we're gonna share with you how this can perhaps help you in moving forward, or if you are expanding your team. Um, it would be actually interesting to know as well your plans as we are moving forward. We believe we have almost 300 sign-ups for this session for today. So our poll is asking you here a question. If you may share your answers, we're gonna give you like 15 seconds to, share your answers here. Would it be majority employees will be work from home setup? So employees will be, split between multiple locations. Are you planning to go back to report to HQ, or you doing a combination of all or A and B? All right, I think that's enough time for our participants to cast in their votes. Admin, can we show the results? Wow, it's surprising. 38% are, opting to continue doing work from home. Some were gonna do multiple locations, and the same amount are, planning to go back to HQ. And it's happy to see that a lot are trying to do, a combination of those. So nice. It's a very nice basis of, our the topic for today, because we're gonna drill down later on the details of each work strategy, right? So let's start with the choices that you guys have made, since a lot of you have chosen a combination of, work from home and then HQ. So we're gonna show you here the, the what comes with work from home in HQ. So it is a must to, have your employees have a better setup in terms of desks and chairs. And of course, internet connectivity is also a big must-have for work from home. And then for HQ, there will be a lot of, requirements supporting the employees that the company are requiring to report on site, because shuttles has to be well arranged, and companies are actually forced to provide and pay for the shuttle services of their employees. In line with that, we have recently partnered with SWAT, if you can see the logo in there, to help us manage these shuttling services better for our clients and employees alike. So we'll discuss on the next few slides how SWAT works and how it can help us. So Tomer's gonna take us over to that slides. So of course, social distancing has to be strictly followed. Implementation of new foot traffic in the office, stricter hygiene, and then sanitization protocols has to be implemented as well from time to time, more frequently than the usual. So overall, it's looking like fully returning to the HQ will mean additional costs for the business owners. So this too, work from home and HQ might have worked for a few months for the others who did it on a DIY setup. And then we must know also the challenges that our employees and the business owners alike are experiencing as they tried doing it from the past few months. So starting with the work from home challenges. So here's a quick look. So we've given it perhaps we have given a free pass just because we need to operate during the lockdown now, but it's the poor internet connectivity really is the first and foremost issue that we have heard from almost our clients and friends in the industry. And I believe some our participants right now are dialed in from other countries. So from time to time, I'm sharing you the snippets of the scenario here in the Philippines so they can follow. And because I know for a fact that the Philippine scenario is somewhat different as the other countries are approaching the pandemic. So like here, a typical Filipino household would not have good internet connectivity, not enough to support a full day work capacity. Because a typical home DSL would only have a 20 Mbps speed, and that means that's a maximum speed, and they would mostly just go about 8 to 10 Mbps in reality, because I personally experienced that. And so I upgraded mine. So even though I upgraded my personal connectivity at home, look where I am right now. I still do my webinar here in our KMC Piccadilly site, our headquarters, because I want to make sure my connection won't fail as I speak, or else, it's going to be really a disaster and it's embarrassing, right? So things like that, we need like an assurance of having like a good connectivity, a facility that can provide that. So some would even make use their personal hotspot at home, and we know that it's not reliable. And for others, data security can be some sort of important thing to consider as well as they're doing work from home. So inadequate work setup may be really an excuse, if not an actual issue for lack of good productivity amongst teams. Plus, of course, some distractions from home interactions and typical noises from home, because we know that everyone is at home, the kids are running around, not to mention the schooling is also going to be done at home. So internet will be shared to many more devices, and it will definitely add some more noises. All right, so next is that we're showing you the HQ, or the headquarters, because we believe that working from the HQ is still the most ideal scenario of all work setups. But keeping an operations in the HQ alone is going to be a challenge given the limitations that we have around us in the community. And you know that you are going to get your employees exposed to to the public transportation if we require them to go to the offices, and if we shuttle them, it's going to cost us a lot as well. And of course, the social distancing measures, the alcohols and whatnot that we need to provide for sanitization activities, like what we're doing, we're providing UV light system as well, so additional signages, and overall increasing expenses, to be honest. And many are somehow surviving these do-it-yourself work from home setups, and the challenging setup of doing it in a headquarters. We heard some of our colleagues that are thinking of totally dropping the idea of keeping a headquarters because it's practically pricey if they would compute it. And that's when would remember the quote from Simon Sinek from one of his talks about remote working, where he mentioned how humans crave for social interactions and how we become more creative with the presence of others. So he said it's more work to try to build and maintain both trust and relationships when you don't have an office, which is indeed true, right? So as the headquarters for most, if not for all, is the center where companies' integrity is built. So simply says that HQ has a very important role in building up your business, and a very important element too in that matter. And I believe these are the exact reasons why we here initiated this campaign, showing and creating awareness on how this three different work setups can help bridge the gap the pandemic brings to our work system. So it's really been disrupted, right? So remember the triple H. It's the HQ, or headquarters, hub and spoke, and then home solutions. So these flexible solutions can definitely help you better work in your HQ. We can show you how possible it is to work near home via the hub and spoke strategy, and a way better option of working from home, because the work from home setup is complete and reliable. So we want to show you how this formula can be a perfect combo to a more efficient operations amidst this pandemic. So each strategy can surely be done and implemented individually, but in most cases, other stakeholders would combine these approaches for better productivity for their teams. And of course, that would translate to better earnings for the company too. So let's start with the HQ, the most effective and the most ideal of all work setup scenarios, at least before the COVID happened. But of course, we all know that it is good and well to have a nice centralized office that you can showcase for good branding, and where you can conduct all your significant business transactions, to highlight the most important fact that the HQ is where the integrity is formed. And just like how Simon mentioned it earlier, right? The same reasons why it is important to keep a corporate headquarters in place. So it may not be the same huge space that we have it before COVID, but it can be somehow downsized as you guys try to re-strategize and perhaps consider doing hub and spoke system. So later on, we're gonna discuss more about how hub and spoke can be better done in your operating teams. So going back to headquarters, it's about adapting to the new norm, right? where our top most priority is our health and safety for our employees. So just like how one of our newest sites has been exactly built, so it's our KMC Podium site. It's really spacious and the least dense among all the KMC sites that we have built from the past. So with a density of 6.6 per person, the desks are a combination of 1.2 to 1.5 meter long desks. So dividers can also be, installed upon request of the client because we know that's an additional shield from the virus. And to be honest, there has been some sort of delays in the handover of this specific site. Of course, caused by the delays of the pandemic and the quarantines and whatnot. But those delays in the construction has actually helped us somehow to think of better ways to reshape the facility to address the changing need of the market. This is when social distancing started to become a strict requirement. Hence, the generous spacing configuration of this KMC podium site, as you are seeing from your screen right now. So there are enough open spaces, perfect for short brainstorming sessions and collaboration works. Not to mention the fact that it is located in the heart of Ortigas in a prestigious building we call the Podium West Tower, which are, by the way, developed by one of the leading developers in the world, the Keppel Land. And so, as mentioned earlier, there's still indeed a lot of work and expenses to maintain the headquarters. And all we want is to, ensure the safety of everyone who's going to use the facility. So the next strategy in our list is the hub and spoke. So this could be the best strategy yet that we can apply given the challenges we're having amidst the quarantine days, because this hub and spoke model can also be called the work near home solution. So the main idea is to distribute the team to more spokes or satellite offices. So you can keep your HQ or decide to downsize it and reallocate the budget instead to scattered spokes where it is near your employees' residences. So a spoke should be as good as a headquarters because if it's a KMC site, so the IT configuration should be the same and it's all 24/7 operational. And HR and payroll is something we can integrate through our biologs. So showing you here our KMC Solutions footprints in the Philippines. Okay, so as you can see, we're basically everywhere and can almost cover all areas where employees can do work near home solutions. And the good news about it is that not only that we are limited to where we are right now, to our existing sites that you can see in your screens, but we are also ready to actually expand to where your employees are actually residing. So we can plan it with you. So later on, Tom is going to help us expound more on this specific model through a case study. So I won't preempt him on this one anymore. So going to our third H, our third solution would be the home solution. So in this option, there's no need for the employee to travel because there's going to be, zero exposure already to the outside world because they're working inside their homes. So they get to keep their jobs without risking going out. So employers get to keep their good employees as well. I would like to explain more on the job retention item here, as it may not be clear to everybody on this session. This is because of the resignation caused by the fact that their employees still afraid to go out and travel to wherever. And even though the employers would pay or arrange for their shuttle services, some are even willing to, shell out for special arrangement. Some are not willing to leave their families behind, even if they're offered to be housed in like a nice hotel or Airbnb units with complete food supplies and all the works. It's surprising actually to discover that, a lot of companies are doing that just to make it work and fully operational, even though we have this limitation. So there also are a good chance of getting good talents because we know for a fact that there are 7.2 million employees that are actually jobless at the moment. So the chances are very good in getting good talents around the Philippines. So since no more real estate are in the mix on this option, so there's a savings also that's equivalent for the business owners. So there goes, the quick backgrounder about our Triple H arrangement.
Thank you, Casey. Nicely done. I think it's my turn now. And I can see we've got 220 plus participants, so no pressure, right? I wanted to talk through a quick case study as we normally do as part of our webinars. And this is actually one of my personal favorites, not just because they're a top 10 client and I've sort of been personally invested with i5, but also the sort of story as to how we got here. So as you can see, i5 are in a growing industry right now. They're in health tech. They currently have about 490 staff in our KMC Zeta Tower location. But they actually started with us a few years back and actually approached us to do something of a build, operate, transfer model. So we actually did the initial staffing for them. We did the recruitment. We hired those employees under our corporate umbrella, managed the HR and the payroll, and we grew that team to over 100 staff. And they continued to grow with us. Sorry, I jumped the gun. We then helped them register here in the Philippines and facilitated the transfer of the employees from KMC to i5 Philippines. And they continue to grow with us in terms of their real estate footprint. So they grew to about 250 or maybe 260 staff by the end of 2019. And earlier this year, as luck would have it, hindsight's a beautiful thing. But at the start of this year, they actually consolidated. So they were working with another partner beside KMC, and they decided to consolidate everything under KMC in that Zeta floor. So that's where they are today. The scenario at the moment is really they're in that growth industry. There's a wealth of talent, and they need to keep hiring. So it's really like, how do they actually enable those staff to be able to perform the tasks in an efficient way? So in terms of the requirements, this comes up time and time again, and quite rightly so. Health and safety, absolute number one paramount importance, more so now than ever. They needed a distribution plan. They didn't want 490 staff all reporting to the same floor for obvious reasons. But also they wanted to ensure that whatever we did for them next was going to ensure some business continuity and ensure that resilience for their company. So you can probably guess where I'm going with this. As you can see from the next slide, it's 490 employees. We've got the HQ option, we've got the hub and spoke option, and we've got the home-based option. But how do we actually go about this? There's obviously multiple factors involved. What are the roles of the employees? Are they handling sensitive data? In which case you'd want them in a secure environment. Is it anything to do with leveling? Do you want your managers in the HQ? Maybe they're a little bit more senior. They've got their own transportation back and forth to the office. So there's a lot of factors that come into play. But the one major or the crucial one that we determined early on was really the geo mapping of those employees. And as you can see from the next slide, we quickly, ensuring that we'd anonymized all of the employee data, we quickly gathered up all of those residential addresses of the staff, and we put it into this map you can see in front of you, and quickly overlaid the KMC facilities. So no coincidence at all that they decided on Zeta. As you can see, the biggest blue dot, for lack of a better expression, is right next to their facility there, the 217 staff. And therefore, it was clear that that would be it would make a lot of sense for i5 to actually retain half of that HQ. But as you look at this map, you can also see a lot of employees scattered to the north, to the south. And the next step in the process was actually to do a pre-qualification with our preferred vendors for the ISPs or internet providers. We used actually 4, believe it or not. And we gave them these employee addresses and said, which of these residences, villages, condos, can you actually support these employees in? And the feedback was excellent. We determined that we could actually get 50 Mbps of internet into about 92% of the employees' residences. So we knew we had some flexibility in terms of being able to provide a home-based model as well. So quickly moving forward, we've got the i5 Zeta floor. It's on the 8th floor of Zeta, which is in Bridgetown, for those of you that are familiar, in Quezon City, which is the highly populated CBD here in Manila. And that was something that they retained as their HQ. And obviously, there's some consideration now in terms of whether to downsize that component for the short term, which brings us on to the hub and spoke. So we've got the HQ, which is the hub. It was actually the employees that were coming from the south that were having the most difficulties in terms of accessing our sites. And therefore, one Griffinstone in Alabang was the clear winner to support those employees coming from the south. So we allocated a space for them in that facility. So they had the hub and spoke, but as you could see from the map that we presented, a large number of the employees, despite KMC being the biggest and having the largest footprint here in the Philippines, there was still a lot of employees that we really just needed to bring that office environment into their homes. So what are we talking about here? Home, well, yeah, obviously working from home. We call it CASA by KMC. Now, the inclusions you see in front of you, I need to point out this is something quite specific for i5. So this is what we came up specifically for this client. Most of these are sort of general inclusions like the furniture, the laptop, the docking station, the headset, the internet, obviously 50 Mbps I mentioned earlier. And we come in, we handle all the delivery and logistics together with our partners, the ISPs, and assist with that setup and installation of this product. So again, it's really a question of bringing that office grade internet, ergonomic furniture, and IT infrastructure into the employee's home. But that wasn't quite enough. And Casey touched on it earlier. I'm going to say the same thing. I've got pretty good at internet at home. And there's a reason that I'm coming into the office today to present this webinar to everybody. We've had some intermittent weather. It's rainy season. I just didn't quite have the confidence to do this webinar at home. What if the ISP goes down? So the other part of CASA is a passport for those employees. So if something does happen in their homes, if it's just not a conducive environment, they do have access to their nearest KMC site. And this picture sums it up nicely. On the left, she's in a rather nice apartment, may I say. On the right, she's in our 4Neo facility, which is in the heart of Bonifacio Global City. So what was the result? Oh, sorry, before I skip on, we flashed up 4Neo in BGC, but as you can see, we're across 10 CBDs, the majority of which are here in Metro Manila, but there's actually access to 25 different co-working locations. So what was the result? What did we come up with for i5? Well, before, just to recap, almost 500 employees consolidated on a customized floor. Insufficient business plan is probably an unfair comment. I guess insufficient for the times. Like, nobody really planned for this pandemic. We'd all considered the volcanoes and the typhoons, etc. But nobody really had the pandemic in mind when they were formulating these BCP protocols. And what happened afterwards? Well, we'll go through it again. Triple H, so HQ, they retained 250 employees that lived near KMC Zeta. They took the hub option, the hub and spoke option rather, with the satellite office in Griffinstone, down in Alabang. And we've actually got a rollout, or we've done a rollout rather, for 200 plus employees. And that, I wanted to add to that, the 200 employees that we've already enrolled on the KMC CASA model, that is where i5 anticipate that they will grow their headcount over the next few months. So that's where they see the most confidence in terms of hiring up. And again, with this Triple H, if in the event of climatic weather, or in the event of a second wave with the pandemic, there is much more resiliency in terms of their disaster recovery. But we haven't stopped there. We've got that far with i5. We haven't stopped there. We want to solve or do more in terms of the transportation challenges that the clients and staff are up against at the moment. And to do this, we've actually partnered with a Singaporean brand, Swap Mobility. They've had huge success in Singapore. And when we met with these guys, it was just a light bulb moment. And I remember a few months back, one of the founders approached me and said, "I guess with the pandemic, this is going to be put on hold." I said, completely the opposite. Like, this is our opportunity to actually come up with a solution for our clients. So we're about halfway through a pilot. Like any pilot, there's been some teething problems which we're ironing out. But clients are already knocking at the door. So we've got at least 5 different clients that have said, "We can't wait for the end of the pilot. We really want to get on this with you guys." I think, John, you're one of those. So just to flash up the next slide where you can see a little bit more information about SWAT. So the pins in red, these are the actual pickup points for the employees. So if you can kind of imagine like a school bus for adults, with the technology, with the GPS, so you can see where the bus is, you can see how long it's going to take to arrive to your pickup point, and you can kind of time when you need to leave the home. And as you can see, we've overlaid some of the KMC facilities here. So these are the routes. You can just about make them out. And again, we're excited to roll this out to clients because, again, with the bulk usage, the routes will be optimized. We'll be able to operate multiple shifts, which will bring down the cost for everybody. So we're really, really excited to scale this up. The next slide, again, I think I'm coming to the end of my part, but what else are we doing? So KMC Armstrong, this is our first entire building that will be under our management here in the Philippines. And as you can see from some of these slides, similar story to what Casey was mentioning about Podium by Kepperland. These facilities, we were fortunate, I guess. We hadn't quite started the construction yet, and we really had that opportunity to go back to the drawing board and say, "Hey, what do our clients need? Like, with the pandemic, with social distancing, what do the clients really need?" We've had an opportunity to reconfigure some of these floors. You can see some nice vitamin D coming in on the roof deck there. But the most exciting thing for me about Armstrong is really the concept that we're now working with the landlord on, which is the bed space. So Armstrong, for those of you that don't know, it's in the heart of Makati in Salcedo Village. Up until the pandemic, very much the most accessible CBD in Metro Manila. And sadly, because of some of the restrictions around transportation now, it's lost some of those perks just a little bit. So a lot of clients, again, you'll hear this time and time again with KMC, when our clients ask us about something, we see what we can do. And this is our latest project at the moment in terms of introducing bed space for our clients and staff. I think that's back to you, Casey.
All right, thank you very much, Tom. That's very informative, showing how it can be done through an actual case study. And with that, hope you were able to explain to you well the 3 H's that we have been talking about earlier, how it's addressing the challenges we presented as well. And as shown you here, the value proposition that we have presented is that it's showing how flexible it is and how this tree can be set up with reliable internet connectivity, how this mitigates risk to all your staff and employees, how it's going to save costs, and lastly, the most important of all is how this will ensure your business continuity. So to sum it all up, this Triple H strategies, the HQ, hub and spoke, and home, are indeed what we need to address the changing work setup in our environment nowadays. Can be done individually and can be a combination of 2 or 3. So before we turn you over to our next speaker, leaving you all with the reality that, COVID may stay for a while. We'll never know when this is going to end. And the clock is ticking. And the best we can do now is to really catch up with the change and embrace the, what we call now the new normal. So Tom, would you like to give an intro to our next speaker?
Thanks a lot, Casey. Absolutely right. I think the sooner everybody looks at these solutions, the better. One person that I've had the joy of working with very, very closely and really understands hub and spoke is Mr. Jonathan Miller, together with Lulette. John's been here in the Philippines, or operated here in the Philippines, for 17 plus years, so comes in with a wealth of talent and experience here. He's currently got about 720 staff, and there's confidence to grow that to 900 desks by the end of the year. So John, please make sure that business comes KMC's way. Over to you, mate.
Great. Thank you, Tom, for the warm introduction and for having Lulette and I participate in this webinar. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. We've been with KMC for a little over 2 years. And when Lulette and I thought about building a second site, we decided we didn't want to put forth the huge CapEx of building our own center, since we've done that several times before. So we went out looking for a flexible workspace solution and toured several facilities until we settled on KMC. And, you know, when you look at a facility, of course, you want it to be world-class, you want it to have all the infrastructure, but what's most important is the partnership that they're going to provide you, because you're obviously a liaison from your clients. So, you know, I had the pleasure of working with Valentina, who was at that point the area sales manager, who has since been promoted and works under Tom. And she assured me of that partnership that we were going to get. And, you know, to give you an example of such a partnership is we've continued to scale with KMC. We're at 3 different locations today. We are looking into growing into the Armstrong facility as well. But during the time of our scaling, we've had opportunities where we needed space immediately because the client was ramping up. And Valentina and team, you know, made it happen for us every single time, whether it be a temporary space in one of their facilities for a month, so we then can move into another site, which happened at their B Corp office in Makati, and then we end up moving after we finish our training with the client on site, moving into their Sheridan location. So, you know, that type of partnership is what you should be looking for. And we're so happy that we found that with KMC and continue to scale with them. Today, we have over 287 seats with them. And as I mentioned, we continue to scale with them as they are the largest provider of flexible office workspace solutions. Next slide. Because we operate 24/7, and as Tom alluded to, the Philippines has its cases of natural disasters, and that be, you know, prone to typhoons, earthquakes, power outages, floods, and obviously now, you know, the coronavirus global epidemic. Next slide. Okay. Because we operate 24/7, it's critical that we have processes and strategies that keep us running if a disaster hits. KMC provides the necessary infrastructure that we rely on to operate 24/7. We want to find a provider that offers, if not the same, if not better than the current infrastructure that we have at our corporate office. And in doing so, KMC offered that as to why we decided, again, to partner with them. Next slide. Great. As COVID hit in March, and I was actually stuck in the Philippines until March 22nd, I got the last flight from Manila to Los Angeles, so I was thankful for that. We transitioned our team immediately, and Lulette will discuss this over a few days to get everyone up and running. Today, we have about 60% of our staff working from home and another 40% working on site, and that's between our corporate headquarters in South Sado Village and 3 of the KMC sites. Part of our continued continuity plan, obviously, as I mentioned, is to continue to scale with KMC and have a combination of what Tom and the KMC team has mentioned, the hub and spoke, where we have our corporate office, the spokes are the KMC sites, and we also have a fraction of our business working from home. Because KMC is the largest flexible office provider out there, obviously they're in the perfect locations for us to continue to scale. So that's obviously very important for us to continue to work with them. Next slide. That would be it. Any questions and answers we can ask can be addressed later. Right now, I want to introduce to you Lulette Biliato, who is the president of Asia Premier One Source. Lulette has been my business partner from the start for over 13 years at Asia Premier One Source, but has worked with me in previous centers prior. Under her leadership, we've continued to scale the business, and basically I couldn't have done it without her guidance, leadership, and friendship for this growth of Asia Premier One Source. And I will leave it to you, Lulette.
You might be on mute, Lulette.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yes, thank you so much, John. Hi, Tom. Hi, Casey. Hello, all the KMC people out there. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. I'll be discussing more of Asia Premier rising from the pandemic. So, yeah. Sorry. So hi again, I'm Lulette, and I'm the president of the company. I've been with Jonathan in this business, BPO business, for 15 years. And just a second. There you go. Yeah, I know that you've seen our video, and if you want to see more, you can visit our website. So now I will be discussing about the decision and direction. So as you all know that March 16, the president already announced that there will be a lockdown. So from the 16th to the 31st, what we did is we suspend all our operations for all our sites, including Makati, Mandaluyong, BGC, and Frabel. These are our KMC sites. We also transitioned everybody from work from home. And by April 1 to 15, we've done everything that we can because there's already like a lot of government amelioration that happened. So we prepared all of those. April 16 to 30, we purchased other workstations that are needed. Of course, the Philippines are highlighted more on their Department of Health assessment. So we made sure that we are up to date on that. May 1 to 15, as mentioned, we provided shuttle and meal arrangements for trainees and other employees. And to tell you, we are one of those who have signed up for SWAT offer of KMC. We're very much willing to be part of that group to start it because we need our people also to have a good transportation going to the location. May 16 to 31, of course, we did all the rapid tests, everything that is needed for our offices. There are a lot of requirements that are needed, like the MASEA compliance, etc. And moving now to GCQ, most of our employees, like what Jonathan mentioned, 40% are already on site and 60% are working from home. So for our 4 sites includes 3 sites under KMC. We have Frabel, we have also Mandaluyong Sheridan, and we also have the BGC McKinley West. We operate 24/7 support, and yeah, as you can see the milestones here, after 36 hours, we were able to transfer all our employees to work from home. And 10% were not working from home simply because of the no work, no pay, ISP challenges, and other factors like location. But right now, like what I've said or mentioned, 40% are already on site and 60 are already still work from home. So with that, I'll be ending also this presentation with Asia Premier's tagline, which is outsourcing done right. But I always want to put it with the heart, just like the Miss Universe 2015 mentioned, because you cannot do everything without being there and communicating properly with everybody so that, all the logistics will be done properly as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Lilette, and thanks to John as well. Very, very informative, and nice to hear from both of you on either side of the pond, as it were. So without further ado, and I'm just mindful of time a little bit, so we've got about 11 minutes now, where we're going to try and address as many of the questions that have come in as possible, and it's been quite lively on the chat group. So our first question is from Adrienne. God, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Adrienne Cobarrubia. Excuse the pronunciation. You're asking me how the HVAC or HVAC works, specifically the ventilation. I don't know how technical I'm going to be able to get in this respect, but what I can tell you is we're quite fortunate. One of our founders, Michael McCulloch, is a little bit of a self-confessed nut job when it comes to air quality. And he actually introduced some SARS-killing ventilation. I think that was in about Q3 of last year. Very, very fortunate. We've had the 2 Vs since then, the volcano and the virus. So we're fortunate that we were somewhat ahead of the game in that respect. So I'm sorry, I can't go into the specifics. I'm not that technical.
I think I can add to that.
Go, please.
Yeah,
Thanks,
because I
Casey.
have
Save me.
at least the surface of it. So what we do on the operation side is we have time-to-time checking of the air quality. So we monitor it. I just don't have the schedule, but we have it like on our schedule with our admin and facilities, and we also have like our air purifiers around the facility. So these are new ones that are installed specifically for this specific purpose, because of COVID. So, and we're looking at some more partnership with good brands that can provide us like good upper air system. And I believe we're also in talks with some certification providers that would help us certificate the air quality of all the facilities that we have. So it's as legit as that.
Thank you. The next one that I've got here from Dean Toro. I think you might have actually asked some questions on our distributed teams webinar. So welcome back, Dean. Do these rides run at night? I assume this is referring to SWAT, the partnership with the Singaporean tech company. Yes. So we have support staff, even for the pilot now. And obviously, I'd say about 50% of our clients actually operate through the night. So even for the pilot, it was crucial that we had like some of the support staff that needed access to the multiple sites to be able to actually do that. So yeah, we've got some pickups that will support the graveyard shift here in Philippines as well. And really that's the concept. So as I mentioned earlier, the more shifts that you're operating, the more affordable it gets for everybody. So absolutely, they'll be running through the night. This is very relevant. Thank you, Rosalie. From Mitchell Tabanag, again, excuse the pronunciation. Does Armstrong have beds that employees can sleep in? Yes. So that the concept, yes. So Armstrong is still being built. There are additional permits and some additional hoops that we need to jump through together with the landlords to really get this concept forged. But yes, and I think there was a question later on where it was on the same subject in terms of would this be part of the office space? Well, no, this isn't nap rooms we're talking about. We have nap rooms across all of our sites, or pretty much all as far as I can remember. Yeah, we have a nap room both for male and female in all locations. This is something different. This is about taking a portion of the floor and allocating it to bed space. So hopefully that answers that question. Casey, you might want to take this one. Patty here from JLL. Thanks, Patty. Got a few questions. One, can existing tenants restructure to a hub and spoke for the rest of their lease term, or does it have to be a new lease? And there's a follow-on question around SWAT. So is SWAT mobility an add-on services? What are the costs entailed?
Yeah. So yeah, let me answer the first one.
Sure.
So these strategies can work to all business owners, may it be a new KMC client or an existing KMC client, because we know for a fact that everyone is really adjusting. So for a current KMC client, we can explore on whether how you or your client, since you're from JLL, how they want to spread their team across. So from an existing contract, we can work on how you want to be spread across all the other KMCs around. And that can be arranged. We just really have to be vigilant on how to plan it, because of course we don't want our teams accessing each site on a random manner. We want it really registered through our IT biometrics team, but we're going to use the card access so that it's safer and then it's no touch. But we're very much strict on having your people enrolled and registered on a specific site. So it would help us better in contact tracing. But to answer your question, yes, it can be done.
And Patty, if there's anything specific, we don't need to go into the details here, obviously, but please do reach out and we can do a similar practice as we did with i5. So we're more than happy to do a really thorough deep dive with the client and really do all of the hand-holding if needs be. Is Swap Mobility free or it's certainly not free to us, but we are considering, particularly during the pilot period, we are considering some subsidies for our clients, but ultimately it will be an additional service and very much ad hoc, so or a la carte rather. So companies aren't forced to take it, but it is a solution if you need it. So hope that helps with that one. These are, this is from Ravi Agarwal. We currently have a team with a BPO. However, all team members are currently work from home. What is the transition process for the team members as their employer entity will be changing? I might have to take that offline with you, Ravi. I just need to get a slightly more of a sense of what the existing setup. So with your permission, quite a specific question, with your permission, perhaps we can reach out to you and arrange a one-on-one conversation so that we can look into that in a bit more detail. I just need to get a little bit more information in terms of what the existing setup looks like. That would be great. Fantastic, Ravi. Now, sometimes different questions come through on the chat from the Q&A. So here's the Q&A. Do you have a rate sheet for Hub and Spoke? That's from Ruby Mendoza. Yes, we do. But again, like what we're really encouraging our clients to do here is let us consult, let us do the legwork. We've got all of the systems in place. And obviously different locations, Quezon City, for example, is a lot more affordable for us to operating versus BGC, for example. So we do have different rates for different facilities, and we'd be more than happy to share all of that information with you. But again, let's do that deep dive and really plan it out for your staff in terms of which location would be most suitable.
Yeah, please leave us a note so we can reach out to you and perhaps we can provide you, some additional workplace strategy that comes, as a value add if we provide you the service.
Okay, sorry, I'm hogging all these, Casey. Does Armstrong have beds? We've done that one. You showed a slide of a rideshare program. Yes, that is 24/7 for SWAT. Good one. Maybe one for John or Lulette, just because I don't want to answer it. Why is it that work from home is more stressful than working in the headquarters?
I think there's, for me and what I've heard and speaking with my team, there's a lot more distractions at home. I think many people who have called in from the US or other countries into support, and they end up getting a BPO in the Philippines, and that person is working at home. You've heard dogs maybe barking, beep beep, maybe some chickens in the morning or roosters in the morning. I think there's a lot more distractions. I don't think it's necessarily the same setup that we would have here for myself in the US, where we may have a separate room for an office, for a home office, or is it in the general living area of everyone else? So I think you just have a lot more distractions. And if most BPOs are supporting US clients, they're working at night. So if people are sleeping and you're on the phone, it's going to be disruptive to them. So I think that's one, as well as connectivity. We've had people get quite frustrated when in the beginning of their shift, the internet was great. And then towards the end, it got oversubscribed and it was not as good. And when I say that, majority of people are using mobile internet, so LTE, versus an installed hard line at their house that typically people here in the US have readily available.
And just to add, yeah, sorry.
Thanks, Lulette. Go, please.
Just to add to that, most of the managers, whenever we have like a meeting, always tells us that it's so hard to monitor them, you know, like real time, because sometimes they go on over break, probably fell asleep during their break or whatnot, you know, but just the same, the challenges that you face from working from home, you know, it's there. Unlike if you work on site, as long as you provide everything, like a good transportation, the right place where they can like eat their food, and then they can be in a safe environment, just like KMC, the things that you provide for our employees, it's very much appreciated.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I actually don't know how some employees are coping at the moment. So just shows how resilient the Filipinos are actually in adapting to some of these challenges. We're running out of time, which is really unfortunate because I could keep going all day.
No, I'm sorry. One
yes,
last question from
sure.
our participants, because I find it really interesting to answer, and it fits us, right? So it's from Ruby Mendoza, asking how is our safety protocol. So if we can share with them what we are doing here in KMC, there are daily health declaration forms that are intended for members, employees, and others, and clients and guests. So we are required to fill it up, complete with our details. And then there are questions that would ask if you were exposed, if you went to this and that, and then you're supposed to answer yes or no. So if you answer one of those questions as yes, then you won't be allowed of an entrance to any facility or site. And if you're a non-KMC member, like a client or a visitor, it has to be well coordinated with the building also, if they are expected to come in. So there are also temperature checks, and then the protocols for quarantines. If let's say there's like flu symptoms, even as simple as a sneeze from a KMC member, you know, our admins would really be vigilant in approaching them and checking out on them, and perhaps requiring all the quarantine measures that has to be done. And for our shuttle services, our drivers are provided also with periodical rapid testing. And aside from our facilities that are being treated with UV lights every night after shift, or when it's the least busy time for the facility, our vans are also being treated with UV lights. I believe we're purchasing more, and that's what we are doing with our staff also. I believe our admin team are also being treated with, being tested through a rapid test on a periodical manner.
And I think one point I wanted to add, Casey, is everyone does have to wear a mask when they're in the office.
Yes, correct.
And
yes.
so
Not
that
only
is
outside.
one thing that everyone has to wear in the office when they enter the building. It's being checked, as well as at every workstation entry. There's alcohol for people to dosage their hands and get them disinfected. So that's readily available throughout all the facilities, reception, and obviously their facility maintenance is constantly obviously wiping down high traffic areas, doorknobs, and so forth. So,
Correct.
what we're practicing in the United States, as well as most places in the world, you have to wear a mask in these buildings, or you won't have entry, as well as throughout the facility.
Yes, and just to add to that, John, we're just proud for the fact that we haven't found any cross contamination in our sites. I believe there has been a report of someone who entered our site, but it's not coming from our site. I mean the contamination. It means we're doing something really good in terms of sanitization protocols inside our facilities, and I'm quite proud to say that here.
But not just us, our members as well. They've taken
Yeah.
this, they've taken the guidelines seriously, and again, we're fortunate to be working with a lot of very responsible individuals.
Correct.
Fantastic. Yeah, I can see we've gone 5 minutes over, which I knew would happen, by the way. So I think we're going to have to call it. There's at least 5 or 6 questions we haven't gotten to here. And we will make a point of reaching out to you individually now to just try and address those. So for anything we didn't get to today, I apologize, but thank you so much. I saw the participation go up to about 250 earlier. Yeah, quite humbling actually, that everybody took the time. So good day, good evening, depending where you're dialing in. And thank you from everybody at KMC, and huge thanks to Asia Premier for joining us this morning.
Correct.
Thank
And
you.
before we totally log out, sorry, thanks John and Lilette, and thanks Tom for closing it very nicely. We just want to remind everyone, because I know for a fact there are a lot of questions that they want us to answer, and there are a lot of conversation that has to happen before they come up with deciding which strategy to take. So we suggest that you guys log into our website. There's a specific link in there that's gonna lead you to the COVID-19 solutions, and you would see the options, and we're gonna upload also the video that would explain better how these triple strategies are going to work for your team. And we'll be happy to to get in touch with you, talk to you, and be a consultant to help you guys figure out what you guys want in the future, at least in addressing this pandemic. So thank you very much. We appreciate your time listening in here, participating, and I just hope we can answer more. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers,
Keep
John.
safe.
Thanks,
Bye.
Lulette. Take care, guys. Nice one,
Bye-bye.
Casey. Bye-bye.